Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy, and on this episode, we are talking travel tips. Yes, I am sitting down with the founder of the Citrine Companies, or not Citrine Companies, the Citrine Compass, pardon me. It's a great new travel company that's going to help customize your experience and connect you with locals who are actually really know what's going on in the places that you want to be. If you're looking for top recommendations and you just don't trust all the paid reviews online, this is the company where you can go and actually be connected with people to customize your experience and really embrace travel. She's also talking about travel tips on how to save money, the best day to book a flight, why should you be using AI for travel? All these great travel tips. As we're getting into the end of the year, people are starting to look at 2024, and the best thing you can do is travel. You cannot take your material possessions with you or your money, but you can take those memories. And it's important to embrace yourself in new cultures, to get out there and see things. And also, as somebody in the personal development space, it is always so important, I believe, that everyone should have something to look forward to. And booking travel and planning a trip is definitely that extra energy that gives you that boost to accomplish those goals, to give an extra pep in your step, is to always have something to look forward to. So as you are starting to plan your 2024 travel, this episode is absolutely for you. We've got great tips, money-saving tips, which are my favorite, and also kind of how to stay safe. So do not miss this episode. It is packed full of information. We'll be right back with our guest on this episode of Next to Madison.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I just wanted to remind you to make sure you grab a copy of my book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up. It is a great, funny self-help book that is going to help you get out of your own way. I have already helped thousands and thousands of people, and they are on their way to living their dream life, and I want every listener to be able to live their dream life as well. So grab a copy of the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or even the audiobook on Audible. Now back to the show.
We are back with our amazing guest on this Travel Snapshot podcast episode. Yes, it is always important to look forward to something, and travel is key. We can never get more memories, and travel creates memories and special experiences. So with us today is the founder of the Citrine Compass. I might have butchered it. She's going to correct me. Kalyn Salinas, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm so good, Madison. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to have you here. So tell us about your company, and then we'll go into all the travel tips and tricks.
Yeah, let's go. Travel. People always love to talk about travel. It's like you get to dream about the next thing, which is why I love it.
It's the only thing you can carry with you is your memories, right? Like you can go and spend $5,000 on a Chanel bag, but that's not going to bring you any joy. Creating those memories. That's
experience. Experience is king.
Yes.
So I founded the Citrine Compass. We do curated guides and itineraries. We connect world travelers with locally based tastemakers. So everyone who's doing the travel advising, the guides and itineraries are based in the city or country where they're advising.
Okay.
So I founded the company, in the spirit, because I travel a ton. I think you travel too, so you might know. A lot of times you spend all this time and money and energy researching a trip, and then it ends up you go and you're like, wait a sec, like I think I kind of did this wrong. You go check some stuff off the list, or you come back and maybe you thought you were going to chill and it was go, go, go. So I started a travel blog just for fun during COVID. It was like my little pet project because people always ask for my itineraries. So I'm putting together the itineraries and posting them on the blog. And as I was doing it, I'm like, I don't really know what I'm talking about. Like I went somewhere once, I went to France for my honeymoon for 2 weeks and researched a ton, had travel tips, but I'm like, I don't really know. Like, I just went a few places and I liked the places that I went, but I really realized that I wasn't the best person to be advising. And I went down this kind of path of figuring out who is, because there's travel agents and bloggers and travel influencers and all these folks, but none of it kind of tapped into the local piece, the customization piece, which we all need when we travel. Like, depending on who you're traveling with or what you're traveling for. So I landed on the Citrine Compass and launched in January. So we're still a little baby startup.
Congrats. That's so exciting. What an exciting thing to have launched. So
it's been a blast.
So do people come to you and then say, hey, I'm looking to go to Italy? And then you come up with like, okay, have you ever been to Italy? All right, this is what you need to do.
So a little bit, because we're still in the early stages, actually, a lot of clients come and they say, I'm looking for someone based here. And recruiting's my background. Most of the tastemakers that are on board are referrals that know someone that I know or that I know from traveling. So sometimes I'll go matchmake a little bit, which is fun because it's extra curated. But let's say you're going to Italy. I have several tastemakers in Italy. So depending on what someone's looking for, they usually look through the profile. They pick the person that either is in the region where they want to travel. Like I have someone who just does the Amalfi Coast, for instance.
Oh, amazing.
So she has a US and Italian citizenship. She speaks perfect English. She lives half the time in Arizona and half the time in Positano. So that's where, if you're going to Amalfi, a lot of people will be like, okay, I want to talk to Lauren. And then either they could get the full itinerary or they can get more curated advice, guides, recommendations. So let's say they want to go to the Amalfi, but they don't want to spend $2,000 a night staying at La Serenus, like the kind of famous hotel. She can give advice, like she can give you a list, of hotels within a certain budget that you're looking for. It might be like in the town next door, but that might be even a cooler experience because you're not with like a million other people like you.
Yeah, and that's good too, because I think when people are like, okay, I'm going to a new country, where do I stay? How do I get the most bang for my buck? Like, what's safe, what's not? And it's like online can only give you so much information. And some of these reviews, like they're paid for reviews. You don't know truly what you're getting.
It really is. I mean, it's crazy. The more I'm in the travel industry, the more I realize how much people pay for eyeballs. So it's like a hotel will pay so much money to advertise, and then it might not be the experience you're looking for. Not everyone's looking for authentic. Some people really want to go do something like have a certain experience, but most of the time people want to go have something that feels authentic. Like they want something that feels like vacation, but that they feel like they're actually in Italy, not at Disney World.
Right. Not going to like the exact tourist places. Maybe they want to have like more culture and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. If you're looking to plan an upcoming trip in 2024 and you're like, where do I go?
Oh my gosh. So I feel like most people come to us with an idea of where they want to go. It might just be a country or a couple of cities. But there are certain, it depends. Sometimes I have a free intro call with clients. Sometimes I'll talk to them a little bit about what they're imagining and maybe get some spots on their radar that they haven't imagined before, like South America or certain parts of Italy that might be a little bit less expensive or less, again, touristy, which I'm always afraid of. I'm always afraid of going somewhere and like they only have an English menu and they are like, it's like shuffling you through the door. But when someone's going to start their trip, I feel like there's kind of the early stage planning, like where do I go, country and city. Some people city hop, like they're like, I want to go to Stockholm, Paris, and Nice, right? Yeah. Some people are like, I want to go to Argentina and I just want to travel within Argentina, but I want to figure out where to go. So there's kind of the early stage, which is like, what's my trip outline? There's the middle stage, which is usually the kind of big boulders, like where am I going to stay? My hotel, you want to have that booked. Most people they're adventurous with some things, but they want to have like somewhere to rest their head.
Yeah.
And maybe some day trips, some like bigger, again, boulders. And then late stage planning is like, where am I going to dinner? I'm making my dinner reservations. The what am I going to do? How am I going to spend my first morning in Copenhagen and stuff like that. So I love blogs and editorial content at the beginning stages of planning. So like Condé Nast, Travel and Leisure, blogs, like even if you just Google search, Costa Rica itinerary, you start to get some ideas and you start to see some things pop up that are going to be familiar, like certain places that really you got to go if it's a big city or it's just something magical, right, in that country. But past that, I'm all about the customization and the local piece, which is so hard to find with any social media or any online. Again,
Yeah.
you never know what's sponsored, honestly.
Yeah. It's so true, right?
So you might, what in an ideal world, like if someone's coming to us, for instance, they've figured out kind of some of the cities or the country where they want to go or the type of experience, and then they're going to go decide how much customization they want, because some people don't want every day planned for them.
Yeah.
A lot of people
That
like
makes
to have
sense.
the outline and then they want to go fill in the gaps, but they want some advice, right?
Yeah. Well,
So
especially when you're
that's where
going
I
to a
think,
new country, you know?
yeah. And actually, the thing that people hate to talk about most with planning, but it's the number one thing that people dread most based on our research with clients and, kind of info surveys, is logistics. No one likes it. It's
Yeah.
like not sexy. How do I get from here to here?
Right.
But it's critical. Like you could totally mess up a trip if you leave a city too quick that you really didn't do justice for, or you're somewhere, worst case, you're somewhere shitty for a
Yeah.
long period of time. When you're like, why am I here for so many days? I really goofed.
Yeah. No, that makes absolute sense. So if somebody has a certain budget, I mean, it's cheaper to go overseas these days than it would be to like go to Florida in some
I mean,
places. So how do people travel on a budget? Like what are some things like tips?
so I think there's a lot of great resources out there for traveling on a budget, but still, number one, boutique hotels are one of the best ways, I think, to have a high-end luxury experience without the price tag. The
Interesting. Okay.
this is a really, really pro tip. Okay. There's a website called Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Like MISTER?
Yeah, MR period and MRS period Smith. If you search Mr. MISTER, you'll probably find it.
Okay.
But I don't even know, like, we can talk more about travel agencies because I think they're an interesting thing that people can utilize as well, depending on like what, depending. But
Yeah.
it's this third-party website that has curated boutique hotels around the world. Some of their hotels are more on the luxury end, but they have these hotels in most cities across the world. You just type in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Lisbon, Portugal, or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, whatever. Even like locally, you might do it for New York. You'd be like, I've never even heard of this, but they
Yeah.
have found these super cute hotels. And actually, when you book through them, a lot of times they'll throw in like a free bottle of champagne or drinks at the bar. They have like these deals with hotels, but they have deals with boutique hotels, which is so refreshing because a lot of time
Wow.
travel agents are working with huge chains that cost an arm and a leg to stay at. So they
Yeah.
provide perks, but it's like not everyone wants to spend $1,000 a night on a freaking hotel. That's like a
No.
special occasion deal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Oh, that's great. And then what do you think about people who are like, oh, I'm going to try to find an Airbnb? Did you hear
I love
about
it.
that? Okay.
I love it. The one thing about that, which is where kind of like for us, our we have something called the guide where you kind of get a curated guide for a city. The thing about Airbnb is you want to be in the right neighborhood. Like think about
Yeah.
have you come to LA often? Do you travel to LA at all
Not
or not
not only when I have to.
really? Okay.
No offense.
Yeah, none taken. Are you kidding? I'm trying to raise a family here. It's like survival. It's like the Hunger Games, actually.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
but LA, there are neighborhoods that are kind of like cool and up and coming where you go down the wrong street and you need like your little switch knife in case someone tries to
Yes.
rob your. Okay. So with Airbnbs, I think it's really important that you find out, even if it's a safe city, where you can walk or Ubers can pick you up or
Yeah.
you name it. But I love Airbnbs.
But then you always hear, like even this happened to like famous people, like they book something in like Italy and then they show up and it doesn't exist. So how do you protect yourself when it comes to that? At least with a hotel, it's a
you know
little.
you know that it's going to be there. Which even with hotels, sometimes you lose your reservation and you're like,
Yeah.
hello, I've got this in print. Um, Airbnb and VRBO are usually, I think people run into issues when they try to go in like off market rental, like any kind of like home swap. Airbnb and VRBO are usually pretty consistent. Some countries have their own like type of homestay thing. But our clients, we recommend Airbnbs to our clients, and we've never had any issues. It is something though, it's why a travel agent wouldn't recommend an Airbnb, because it's much harder to quality check. Even if it exists,
Yes.
it might
Right.
look, you might get catfished
Well, the
in those
pictures
things.
are always better, right? It's like the
And you show
filters,
up and
kind of
it's,
like the
yeah,
dating apps.
that is actually exactly accurate. Sounds great. 6 feet tall or 5'7", close enough. But I'm a fan of it. I just think like going somewhere that doesn't have any reviews, for instance, like I wouldn't be the first person to book an Airbnb, because even if it's beautiful, like a lot of times it's about the owner or the person who's renting
Yeah.
it. That again, it's people, it's experience. They could be total, like they could not care about your experience at all, and then you might be in a pickle. But I like it. I do it, especially with
Okay.
traveling with a family, because you have
Good
a
to
little
know.
kitchenette, and it's a great way
Yeah.
to save money. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then let's talk about best time of year you think to travel.
ooh, okay. Actually, the some of the cheapest time to travel is October and November.
Oh, because it's like holiday stuff.
It's like it's not it's summer. August is by far the most expensive month to travel. All
Yeah.
of Europe's on vacation, so you have summer vacation for the US, and in Europe you have they get months off, their fabulous PTO situation.
Yeah.
They're all traveling too. So it just raises the prices, and you're bound to be it raises the prices, and you're with a lot of other people. But come when school starts again for kids in September, and there's not a lot of holidays to market at the end of September, October, and November, because Halloween is really like more of an S thing. You
Yeah.
can get really good deals on places that are otherwise crazy expensive, or going when it's off season, like going to South Africa, for instance, because they're in the other hemisphere. So when it's their winter, it's our summer, vice versa. A lot of people don't want to go to South Africa in the winter but South Africa never really gets that cold. So you can travel during the
Oh.
summer when it's slower work wise for some people here, but you can still get a good deal. They think it's like terrible weather because it drops down to like 50 at night.
Yeah, right.
You
We're like,
know?
oh, we can handle that.
Yeah, totally. So those are some of my favorite months to travel.
That is a very interesting and good to know. Okay, let's talk about flights. What's the best day to book flights for your cheapest option?
Okay, so in the industry, they say that Tuesdays are the cheapest day to book a flight. Don't ask me why.
I thought it
And
was Wednesdays, but it's Tuesdays the cheapest day to fly or the cheapest day to book.
book.
Okay, so Tuesday, cheapest to book. I wonder why that is.
You know what? I don't know. I think it's like
I love that advice though.
I know. I would, if I had to make an educated guess, a lot of people book on the weekends because they're not working, so they're doing personal stuff, and possibly Monday too, because they're trying to like get shit done. It's like, oh, my Monday list. And
Yeah.
Tuesday, people are like in it back at work, and they're not thinking about the fun stuff. But I've seen that as true in my experience. Tuesday's the cheapest, and it'll go up significantly like other days and then go back down. It's very weird.
Interesting. So, okay, gotcha. And then, yeah, because I travel a lot on Wednesdays because I feel if I can, because it's like the airport is the slowest.
Yes.
And then I always try to like book the first flight out. It's a pain in the rear end to get up in the morning, but the flight that you're on is already there. And most of those delays are coming in from being delayed in another city where they're waiting for the aircraft. So that first flight out is going to help eliminate delays. That's what I found.
I think that's genius. I don't know if the airline industry will ever pop back completely. They took such a hit
No, but
during
they have
COVID.
to, yeah, they have to wait. Yeah, exactly. But no, I know. And people like being understaffed and things of that sort. So yeah, it's
Something
interesting.
else, this is when you are actually in a country. This is not for everyone, but it kind of in the travel industry, the rule of thumb is if you're going somewhere that's 3 hours or less, drive instead of fly. Because the time it takes to get to the airport early, check in your bags, wait for the flight, be on the flight, potential delays, it is 3 hours. And driving, whether you rent a car or whether you hire a driver, can oftentimes be similar price, and you've got much more flexibility, and you're in your own space. You don't have to like sit like this next to
That's true. We always forget. Sometimes I'll take a flight like just in the same state but all the way up, and I do that because I can't drive. I don't like to drive on the highway. It scares me. But if it's less time by the time you like fly to the airport, drive over, drive to the airport, check in, blah blah blah, I actually add 3 hours on my flight or on my day travel just by taking a 45-minute flight.
I know, it's wild. And it's different when you're like doing a little commuter. Like if I was going to San Fran, for instance, and I just needed to get up there, I wouldn't drive the 6.5 hours. If I was taking a road trip and I wanted to go vintage shopping in Cambria, a little beach town in California, I wanted to go to, have a mean croissant and Carmel by the Bay, like I'd make it a thing. But this is like if you're abroad, for instance, and driving through the French countryside, like who hates that? You know what I mean? It's
oh my gosh, I know. It's beautiful. It's gotta be so it's got to be so beautiful. So how do you keep yourself safe when you're overseas?
Oh, that's where the local expertise, I think, really comes into play. And oftentimes you can find it just as easy. Hotel concierges, Airbnb hosts, people who are, in a service kind of role where you're staying. But it could even be like you can pop into a coffee shop and ask the barista or the bartender or the waiter, like, hey, anything to know? Because like we traveled to Argentina and people were like, hang on, like people drive by on motorbikes and like, we'll rip your necklace off of your, and all this stuff. And like, once we actually arrived, this was like people's warnings on blogs and all that stuff, right? Which is where they're trying to add value. And they're like, watch out. Once we got there, they're like, okay, well, in any big city, like be careful, don't be dumb, about things. But they're like, once you get out of Buenos Aires, you're completely fine. It's totally safe. You could stop in the middle of nowhere and ask a stranger for help and they'll help you, and so, but that's where local expertise for me really comes into play, because they don't have any reason to like someone at a coffee shop, they have no reason to be like, it's completely safe if it's not.
Totally. And that's where the value of your company comes in, because you connect them with the locals who know what they're doing, correct?
Totally. And they can, and again, they don't have skin in the game. They're excited. They just want someone to come and experience where they're living like they do, so they get to advise, and people do value advice on safety, because when you're going somewhere new.
Well, especially, maybe you don't know the language, you don't know the cultures, you could get yourself in trouble, like, especially traveling over to like the Middle East, where the rules of women are very different. You go over dressed like you're going to Miami, you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's important to understand that,
Totally.
So the cultures are key. Okay, well, this was great. Is there any other travel tips we should know before we depart, and you tell us where to find you and all that good stuff?
Okay, so you talk about AI in your podcast, so I just got
I love AI.
Okay, not for travel, sis. This is what I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Writing
that down.
Write it down. Don't do it. Maybe later there will be enough, because AI is they're gathering their data from the general internet. So that means like reviews, like on TripAdvisor, which are unvetted. There's
right. Okay.
So I've tested out AI a lot. For everything from put together an itinerary for me, tell me about local experiences. Okay, I just did it before our call. We did a trip to Denmark and Norway a couple of months ago. And I said, how do I get from Copenhagen, which is in Denmark, to Bergen in Norway, and then to Oslo in Norway? The only recommendation was you can drive. It'll take 20 hours and 52 minutes.
Oh gosh.
No, and you're like driving, like you have to get on a ferry, like you drive your car onto a boat and ferry across because they're in different freaking, countries across, separated by water. The only thing that I'll use AI for is facts. Like, what time does the Met Museum open, or is this
Okay,
place?
interesting.
Otherwise, there's why people pay for our services. Their AI has no taste.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not human.
Yeah. So again, maybe eventually there'll be an AI profile that's like your like cute 40 something best friend who lives wherever. But as of now, they are trying to give a blanket approach, and there's no
It's like scouring the
taste.
internet. It's like the human data that's been gathered over the years and years and years and years that we didn't realize that we were selling by going on all these other websites and signing up for things for years. I mean, data's the new oil, right? That's kind of what drives AI. So,
Oh yeah.
because people are like,
And
oh, I'm worried about AI. It's like you need the human behind the AI. They work together.
For like content, for idea generation, for different things, I think it's interesting. For travel, because there's so much personalization that goes into it. Like, again, if you're traveling with a best friend, or if you're traveling solo, or traveling with your parents,
Yeah,
like those are all things that there's nuances to it where, like,
totally. That makes
you want
yeah,
a human.
you do. You want somebody who knows the culture. Okay, so
So
how can we find your company? How can people find you and use
yes,
you and all that great
absolutely.
stuff?
So we're on Instagram. I've done like 4 posts on TikTok. Okay, represent. I'm
Yay!
feeling like it's a
Make
new.
sure you
I don't know.
follow us and we'll follow you
Yeah.
back.
Okay, love it. But primarily we're on Instagram, and our website has a ton. We have a lot of articles that have great. We do insider guides with our tastemakers, so they give kind of like their quick hitters of what to do in Paris, in Park City, in San Diego,
Yeah.
in Phuket. So there's a lot of good resources on our website. That's where you can see all our different tastemakers and destinations. So it's just,
Amazing.
the citrinecompass.com.
So, okay, and spell that for people so they can go to it right now. Whether it's
Yes, it's www.theCitrineCompass compass.com.
perfect. Well, I love it.
Or
Well,
an
thank you
Insta.
so much for being here and giving these great travel tips. So just
So
snapshot
fun.
it. Don't use AI. Book your flights on Tuesdays. And boutique
Go
hotels,
local,
Mr.
baby.
and Mrs. Smith, and make sure that you actually are using somebody that's trusted, that really knows, especially if you want to kind of customize your experience so you're not just in Disney World of Florida. I loved this. This was fantastic. So, okay,
Love
well,
it.
thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's listening, wherever you may be. We will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.